Welcome to the Share Hope, Bring Love podcast, where we bring you stories that illuminate the power of God's hope and love, even in the darkest of places. I'm your host, Rochelle Starr.
And I'm Rachel Hunter, your co-host. Together, we'll explore incredible life-changing stories and the impact of gospel outreach, Christian community, and discipleship.
In each episode, we explore narratives that not only uplift, but also offer insights into how hope and love can transform lives. We believe that these stories have the power to touch hearts and inspire action.
So whether you're seeking to be inspired or to learn, this podcast will be a reminder of the light that exists in the world. You're in the right place. We're here to share, uplift, and connect, one story at a time.
Well, welcome to the show, Share Hope, Bring Love. Let's go. We are back, and I'm excited to continue our conversation and to talk about this episode of the Scarlet Thread. That actually was something people would bring up, or like the Scarlet Letter or whatever, because they were like, oh, the name definitely has to do with that, which the name actually doesn't, which you heard in previous episodes. But there are multiple threads in Scarlet Hope that God has weaved and is weaving all throughout the country. And that's what I'm really excited to talk about today. We ended the last episode with talking about how God multiplied our ministry into Cincinnati. We briefly touched on that. But today we're going to really look at where has God led us and how is he weaving that thread through cities, through people, and through the women that we serve.
Yes, and I love this. I think this is one of my favorite stories to tell or to hear. So I'm really excited for you to tell us more deeply. Let's start with Reno.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the coolest parts about Scarlet Hope is this organic nature of things. That Scarlet Hope is both a pioneering, entrepreneurial venture that we go into territories that are unknown, are foreign, and how it works is different everywhere. And so Reno started because a woman who was here with her husband at seminary came to our volunteer orientation years ago, like 2000, I believe it was 2012. And she said, my husband and I are here going to seminary, and when we graduate, we're going back, and the work we want to do is bring the gospel to the sex industry. And so I remember that very vividly. She's a strong personality. She told me immediately what she wanted to do. So she said, I want to be like your protege. I want to know everything that you know. I want to see everything that you do. She actually grew up in Reno, and so to go back to her people and to be sent back there and to bring the gospel was very exciting for her and also for us. We didn't know what this would look like. But in 2014, she goes back there and she starts doing exactly what she was doing in Louisville, going to the clubs, showing up every week, prayer drives, bringing meals in, and started to build relationships with the girls. And all through the years, God had made it very clear that Jeray's passion and her giftings were discipleship of the women. Mm-hmm. So I remember going out to Reno one time, and there were 70-ish women that she was discipling. And I was thinking, wow, this is incredible. Like
Jeray's crazy.
Jeray's crazy awesome, and how God did that. But it was because of her calling and her passion and her drive to be obedient to the Holy Spirit and do that. So that's how Reno started, and Reno's been sort of operating since 2014, and got a new director, Haley, there, which is really awesome. And they have a resource center and things like that. But it always starts out small, and it always starts out with one, and it always starts out with prayer. And really, we don't move past that until the Lord allows us to move past that.
So there's a crazy thread now from Louisville to Reno to Nashville to Denver.
Yeah.
So you told us about, Reno. So how did we end up with this Denver with a sidestep in Nashville?
Okay, so follow me on this journey. So Jeray starts in Reno. She starts serving the clubs. She forms her board of directors out there. And a woman on her board named Tammy ended up serving for a couple of years on Jeray's board, going to the clubs with them, learning the ministry. But then she and her family got a job in Nashville, Tennessee. And so before she ever moved to Nashville, she had contacted me and said, does Scarlet Hope want to go to Nashville? And I said, well, that's like in our backyard. That's just a few hours away. That'd be awesome. So we start doing the research on that, figuring out what's down there, what's going on. And she moves to Nashville. And right away, I think it was literally month one, she was there. We meet together and she's like, I'm ready to go. Like, I want this to happen in Nashville. So through prayer and through people and through some provision, she starts prayer driving, going to the clubs. One of her volunteers that she trained up in Nashville, her name was Cassidy. Cassidy was living in Nashville and serving in Nashville. Really cool piece about Cassidy is that her mom served for us for a decade in our cook team.
Here in Louisville,
Kentucky.
Yes.
I mean, Cassidy was like 11 years old when her mom started serving with us. And so Cassidy started serving in Nashville. She already knew about Scarlet Hope. And then she moves to Denver. But we didn't know, I didn't know Cassidy very well. And the Lord had about a year before this started prompting us to plant in Denver. And I remember thinking, we can't go to Denver unless there's a person. And out of the blue, Rachel, I get a text from Cassidy, and it says, this may seem random, but I moved to Denver. I served on the Nashville team, and my husband and I would like to start a Scarlet Hope in Denver. So now there's Scarlet Hope in Denver, and it's incredible. They started with prayer. They started going to one club. They started serving women. And it's just, I don't know, how can you explain like the threads that God weaves? We don't understand. We don't even quite see how he does all of it, but he does all of it. And then it's connected, and we're connected as sisters in Christ doing this work for the kingdom. Isn't that cool?
It's so cool. And I know every site has a story, and we don't have time for every site story today. But maybe you could give us like a run of like what 10 cities is Scarlet Hope currently in, and then roughly the year they started. Pop quiz.
Well, you're putting me on the spot, and you might have to help me with this. So, like I said, Cincinnati was the first, but now Cincinnati is morphed into Scarlet Hope, Ohio, and we're serving women in Columbus and Dayton, and we hope to get back into Cincinnati in the upcoming months. But we're also serving in Miami, Florida, in Orlando, Florida, in Nashville, Atlanta. I know you told me to say dates, but
it's okay.
I don't know. Denver, Las Vegas, Reno, LA, and soon to be Dallas. Did I miss anybody else?
No, that's everybody.
Oh my goodness, I got it right.
So fun. Yes. And so many threads with volunteers and things like that. But I think one story I would love for you to tell that I really have been encouraged by that's still happening in real time is a woman that we met in Miami that's been served by us all over. And I think when we first adopted this Scarlet Thread concept, I remember it was actually Jure again. We were at a retreat here in this building, and we were just like dreaming about what God was calling us to. And Jure drew a map of the U.S., and she was talking about how strategic traffickers are. There's a strategy. There's, truck lines, and they're moving women very specifically from place to place, and each location is there for a very poignant reason. And she was just praying over the fact and casting a vision that in the same way, Scarlet Hope can be strategic. God is planting us in these cities for specific reasons to help specific women. And I just remember seeing that visual and just being so touched by it, right? And now we have this really cool story that I think demonstrates it so well. So tell us about this woman from Miami.
All right, so I do need to first introduce this way of outreach that we got introduced to in 2018, which is reaching women who are online. Because, and it only matters because we have these numbers that we are able to pass out anywhere in the United States, and women from all over are able to get in contact with us. So our Miami director, Liz, had gone to the clubs to serve women meals that night and had passed out a card or several cards to women. But oftentimes women don't tell us everything that's going on in their story when they're working. So we give that to them. We give them our number, and we hope to connect with them outside. It was in the evening sometime, and my phone rang, and it was this woman. And so I started talking to her about her situation, and she was actually in crisis, and she was in an abusive relationship with another woman who had trafficked her from Houston to Miami. And she had been there for quite a while, but at first she thought they were in a relationship, but then she realized she was being used. And so she was being abused, and she decided to escape, and that's when she reached out to the line. And so I got a hold of Liz, and her and I, for several hours, we were able to help talk her through her situation, really assess the situation, and we ended up using one of our partner organizations that we could get her a safe hotel room that night and then get her into a facility in Atlanta. And so Liz was able to share the gospel with her, which she accepted Christ that night, and then we were able to fly her to a safe facility for rehab and care. in Atlanta. From there, though, she ended up reaching back out to our ministry, and she said that she had sort of completed that, but was going to go to a ministry in Nashville. And so we hooked her up with Tammy in Nashville. She got some counseling and got some resources there. And then several months later, I think this whole story is like over 8 or 9 months, she is staying in contact with us regularly. And we were really the only safe place that she actually knew. And then I think it was like a month ago, she moved to Ohio where her family was, and immediately got connected to our Ohio director, Becca. And now we just got this beautiful, amazing picture of them in the car together. They were spending time together, and she looks healthy and she's doing well. But here's the coolest part, is that this thread from Miami to our partner in Atlanta, which Scarlet Hope is in Atlanta now. We weren't actually at the time, but then to Nashville, now to Columbus. No matter where this woman has gone, she has had Scarlet Hope community around her.
And she didn't pick her locations for Scarlet Hope. She
No.
just went there for other reasons.
Yes. I mean, that is just the cool part about like what you said is to be strategic. God is being strategic for us because the industry has very much changed. It used to be, and I'm sure this happened all the time, but women used to stay in their local contexts and dance at clubs or establishments, and that was about it. There wasn't this huge online opportunity for them to work wherever they wanted. Now that is more prevalent than ever. A woman could live in Louisville and she's traveling all over the place, working in clubs all over the place, working online. And so that's why, I think this thread where we're all connected, we're all serving women collectively as one team is so important. And that woman, and I know that woman feels that from Scarlet Hope, that we are all connected, serving her together.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful picture also of God's pursuit. He is willing to go to the hardest places for us. A verse we've talked about a lot as a minister, and we haven't here yet on the podcast, is Luke 15, when Jesus leaves the 99 to go after the one, and how we get to demonstrate that as a ministry on a regular basis. But I think this story of this woman shows that so clearly. Like, no matter where she went, God was pursuing her in that place. And that's not something that we could do on our own. We don't have the resources to follow someone around like that. That sounds really creepy. But we can't do that. But God is after this woman, and it's so clear in this story.
Yeah. And to think how he's kept her safe all of these years when, she just had no idea in the moment I was talking to her, she didn't know how she was going to live just past that day. And now here we are like a year and a half later, and she's doing great, and there's always going to be things that come up, but you can see God's hand on this particular woman all throughout the time that we've known her. And even at that moment where Liz gave her that card, that was the Lord provided, saying, hey, I see you. I'm here for you, and I'm pursuing you. And I mean, it's just really amazing that God does that. His heart is for the vulnerable, for the broken, and for people that don't even think that there's a single person out there that would care about them. And we see that all the time.
Tell me a story. Last time we didn't really share one, but this week, in the past couple of weeks, we're encountering this all the time when we're working with women. So tell me a story, if you have one, from like this past week doing outreach, of maybe a woman that you got to share that love with.
The woman that actually comes to my mind that would be fitting even for this episode it's a woman I've been working with for a very long time. I met her in Louisville. She now lives in Miami. She's been in this industry for a very long time because it's truly all she knew. Her mother was a prostitute. Her grandmother was in the industry. Her aunt was in the industry, and she was somewhat sold into the industry at 14 years old. I've been talking to her again. She kind of comes and goes in my life because she's still in the industry. She's still in the life. But she reached out to me last week again, and she just said, she always calls me mom. And it's not because she doesn't have a mom, because she does, but I am the most motherly person in her life. And so she said to me, I just wish that I could come home. And we were talking about that and what is it, number one, what is it like for her where she's at, and what would home look like to her? And part of what, I gathered from her is that she is so far down this road into the life of the industry, she feels like there's no way of coming back. The things she's seen, the trauma that she's experienced, she's too far gone. That's what she kind of feels like. And so to come home would be things like, I want a normal job. I want to take my kids to the movies and not worry about what other people are thinking about me because of what I look like, things like that. But also, like, she remembers the days where she was here in Louisville and she was in our community. And so she always says, like, I wish that there was community like that where I'm at right now. And that's something like in our newer sites that is building, but Scarlet Hope Louisville has the longest standing community that we have here. And so I keep inviting her, come back home, but also home is in Christ. And that's a really hard concept for her to understand. But there was a point in time for about 9 months where she was walking in our community here in Louisville in Bible study. She was baptized and she tasted the Lord's goodness. And I try to remind her of that as much as I possibly can. That even if Miami's community doesn't look like Louisville's community, that God is still working down there and still can pursue her and she can still find that. But no matter where she's at, that she always can come home to the Lord. And so she doesn't quite understand that, which is, again, it's very hard when you are in a certain type of environment where you've been traumatized a lot. But I pray every day, and I tell her this every time we talk, and I did last week, if there is breath in your lungs, there is still hope. And so God is waking you up every day saying, this is a new day that I have given to you. I love you. Come home.
It's beautiful. And that's why we do this, right? Share hope. Our whole concept is we want to share hope with women when it feels hopeless. And I don't believe these women need the hope of Jesus any more than anyone else, but there may be no one willing to tell them but us. And so what an honor we have as Christians to take the hope of Jesus into the darkest places. And so, yeah, this is so fun to talk about. And I can't wait to tell more stories on future episodes.
Let's go. As we come to the end of today's episode, we hope you've been deeply inspired by the stories we shared. Our mission is to spread the hope and love of Jesus with women in the adult entertainment industry.
If you feel inspired to join the movement and make a difference, we invite you to visit our website at scarlethope.org. Follow us on social media at The Scarlet Hope for updates, or consider joining a local team in your own community.
Together, we can make a world of difference, sharing hope and bringing love to those who need it most. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to having you on our next episode.